happy to be able to do it.
Thank you so much, Samira. And hello, everybody. I'm so good to see you. Some of you must be seeing my face for the first time. I am relatively new to URI and I'm already in love with this space. And I'm so glad to be here with all of you today. I'm Tanya and I'm the Cooperation Circle Liaison Officer for United Religions Initiative in North India. I'm glad that
Oh, I don't see Tanya anymore, but I can join her in wishing you welcome and say how happy I am to see all of you here. I am happy, just like my colleague Tanya is, to be able to work for URI and welcome you here on behalf of URI. We worked together on putting this wonderful series of events for World Interfaith Harmony Week. And this is the second event in line. The first one was the Intercontinental Interfaith Quiz with a lot of young people from URI. And that was really great. It happened last Saturday. And today we're here to share stories. And Tanya, I turn it over to you to introduce URI quickly and tell us something about World Interfaith Harmony Week.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. I got dropped off the call. As I said, I'm glad to be here with you all today. And to those who are watching it on Facebook live stream, I'll just tell a bit about URI. So United Religions Initiative is a global grassroots interfaith network that cultivates peace and justice by engaging people to bridge religious and cultural differences and work together for the good of their communities and the world. If you're new here and if you're watching this call on Facebook live stream, I encourage you to go to the website and check out the amazing positive stories of interfaith peace building, peace and harmony. I'm sure you'll love it. So I'm glad that all of you are here. And as you all know, we are here to celebrate World Interfaith Harmony Week. This is the second event of our month-long celebration. And the celebration of World Interfaith Harmony Week seeks to spread the message of harmony and tolerance among people of all faith and world's religions, and even non-faith. And it's an annual event that is celebrated all over the world by URI cooperation circles that are grassroots interfaith groups working on creating cultures of peace, justice, and healing. And while Samira and I were preparing for this wonderful event today, we were just thinking of some quotes to say today. And we both loved Maya Angelou for some reason. So I'm just going to say one quote from her, and then I would request Samira to jump in and say the quote before we begin further. So I love this quote from her, which goes like, I quote, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story." And with that, I request Samira to tell us her favorite quote, and let's continue.
That is so true. There's something happening inside of me when I have a story that's on point at that particular moment, and when I'm in the comfortable space, I always love to share it. And one thing that really ties me close to people are the emotions that their stories bring out in me. And right on that track, here is a quote, another quote from Maya Angelou. "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And I'm really happy to know that today we will hear some wonderful stories, and let's try to remember how those stories make us feel.
Great. Thank you, Samira, for sharing that. I would now request you to light up this room and let us light the campfire and get everybody in the mood and continue our journey of interfaith storytelling. And let us open our hearts. That's the title of today's event. So are you all ready to open your hearts? Wonderful, wonderful. Great. So let's just wait for Samira to display the campfire that we've prepared for all of you with love.
It took a lot of effort and energy to put this campfire together. And there is an ad coming up, as always. Okay, here we go. You know, as usual, fire takes some time, right? We are not able to make it hurry up. It comes as it wants. Okay. Okay, let's all try to imagine the fire in front of us while it decides to appear. Let's use our imaginations for a moment. We would love for you to feel comfortable and cozy, feeling the effects of warmth next to you as we listen together to the fire right before us. Now let's try to imagine all the people on this call sitting around the campfire. Right after Tanya and myself, we shared this quote from Maya Angelou, and we're ready to embark on the journey of telling some stories.
Thank you, Samira. And I'm feeling very cozy, and I'm sure all the other people around on this call are feeling the same. So today, we all have gathered by this virtual campfire to celebrate the spirit of World Interfaith Harmony Week, love, and listen to the diverse stories, and most importantly, open our hearts to each other. And with that, I'm honored. We are all honored to have three amazing storytellers amongst us who will be sharing their interfaith journey with us. Give a thumbs up reaction if you're ready to open your hearts and open your hearts to these wonderful interfaith experiences. I would quickly introduce our three amazing storytellers, and then I would request them to jump in and share their stories one by one. So today we have with us Pragya Narang from India, who is a peace activist involved in India-Pakistan citizen-to-citizen peace campaigns, as well as interfaith peace campaigns for the past 5 years. She has worked as a PR, marketing, and communications consultant for many peace institutes, as well as in corporate sectors in South Asia. We then are honored to have Perri McCary, fondly called as Mama PK. She's a Houston artist, educator, and a social activist who works tirelessly to cultivate relationships across racial, gender, generation, and cultural aisles. PK is a founding member of URI and the co-founder of Think Peace International, a communications media network for peace activists and cooperation circle of URI. PK currently serves as the Global Council Trustee for URI. And lastly, last but not the least, I want to introduce His Grace Salika Dasa Adhikari, who is the temple president of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, short form ISKCON, in Jos, Nigeria. And he is also the vice chairman, National Council of the Movement in Nigeria. Is a comparative religionist and a specialist in interfaith dialogue, and the founder and coordinator of Center for Applied Spiritual Sciences. With that wonderful introduction of our very amazing storytellers from all around the world, I pass on the light of peace, love, and hope to Pragya to begin her story.
Hi, everyone. I'm so stoked to be telling this story because this is pretty much, unheard till now. So my interfaith journey, it didn't exactly happen with some profound thing. It was really an accident. In 2016, I went to Europe visiting my brother because my nephew was just born. And I decided to use some time to explore. And in one of the walking tours of Barcelona, I ran into my first Pakistani. So I never met any Pakistani. So my interfaith story is extremely connected to my India-Pakistan work. And what happened is that, Indians and Pakistanis, I'll just give you a small background. They look similar. They were basically the same people some 75 years ago. And we speak the same languages, we eat the same food, we basically, there's not much of a difference if you see it from an outsider's perspective. And so I was walking alongside this person, and we started talking because we recognized each other from being from the same region. And I asked this him that, okay, where have you come from? And he said, I've come from UK, and I'm doing my MBA there. And I said, and he asked me, where have you come from? And I very nicely said, okay, I've come from Germany, because that's exactly where my brother was staying. And we had a nice long conversation for about 2 hours. And post that conversation, while we were just exchanging our numbers, I asked him, so which city back home are you from? And he says, Lahore. And I, as an Indian, I freeze, okay? Because just recently, just about a month ago, there had been this major conflict with Pakistan and India. And the entire news channels, they were completely full of these narratives about how Pakistanis in general are terrorists, how we should basically, not have any, we should basically just remove our embassy from there, and so on. There was this just huge hatred and this poison constantly on. And unfortunately, despite having grown up in a very secular environment, I had been caught up in it. So I look at this person, and he was a little plump. So I look at his waistline, and I'm really scared. And I keep getting these thoughts. Maybe he has this belt which is going to blow up suddenly. So I had all these really scary thoughts. And but I wanted to be really polite. And I couldn't believe that, I never realized in these 2 hours of our conversation that, this person was a Pakistani. But so I politely excused myself. I did not react at that moment, but I politely excused myself. But we'd already exchanged numbers. And when he visited my city, which was Munich, where I was, he asked me if I had time to take him around. And we had by that time started a little bit of conversation. And I was like, okay, I couldn't really say no. And besides, when an Indian is outside, they really miss talking in their own language, in Hindi. There's not too many people to talk to. So I thought, okay, let me just go out. And we ended up being decent friends. And we kept in touch after that. And we used to send each other pictures of foods. And I was amazed. There were so many things that I did not know about Pakistan. And I started thinking that, okay, I want to go backpacking here. And so what happened is that, of course, you really can't go to Pakistan. That the visas are completely blocked, and there are very few people who get the chance to kind of get the visa. So that's a new thing I discovered. Of course, I was pretty ignorant in that way. And I go. So then I figure out that, the only people who can go are the ones who are peace builders and who basically are volunteering for Indo-Pak peace. And I thought, hey, let me just try doing that. Maybe if I volunteer long enough, I will get a chance to go and visit Pakistan. And, it would be so amazing. I could wear the Indian Indian cricket team's T-shirt and stand and take a pic for my Instagram, for in front of the Minare-Pakistan, which is basically the Pakistan star. And I thought this is pretty exciting stuff. So I started volunteering. And I think that exact moment when I started volunteering was the inflection point of my interfaith journey. That's when everything changed. So I had started doing it for a very selfish reason, because I wanted to travel, but things opened up. And I want to also kind of state that, in India, the image that we have of Pakistanis are that they are hardliner Muslims. And around that time, the entire country, when these things were happening, when I was volunteering, the entire country, there was a lot of Hindu versus Muslim debates that were happening, and Muslims were sort of being painted as extremists, and as somebody who would probably who would somehow always harm Hindus. So this entire thing was being painted, and I had just started my discovery. So around that, and similarly around the time, a friend of mine, she came. She was a Kashmiri, and she was staying in this PG, or this hostel that I was staying in, and she was waiting for a visa to UK to reunite with her family reunification visa, because her husband was there, and somehow Ramzan, the month of Ramzan, fell around that time, and she was quite sad. And she said, in Kashmir, I have my whole community, I have my family, and when you fast, fasting is a very community thing, and because it's a community thing, I am feeling like it's, and you don't feel that you're fasting, you don't feel the pain of it, and now, because I'm all alone, it is just feeling like an uphill task. So I said, okay, I want to do this with you. I could do that, but like, no guarantees, I may not be able to do it because I never fasted. So I started, fasting. And of course, she was a very good friend of mine. We connected on many things. And that was, I think, my first, and because I told her I've been volunteering for peace and, India Pakistan peace. So I started keeping the fast. And um, that fasting changed the way I looked at Muslims on the road. So in the TV media, we were constantly being told that you have to be afraid of them. But when I walked into the streets, I looked at them as people who are fasting. So I started like getting up from the bus seat, to give whenever I saw somebody wearing a Muslim attire, I started giving them seats in the bus. And I started wishing them, Jumma Mubarak, which basically means, Happy Friday, to any uncle randomly on the street, because I suddenly realized that this person is probably, it's his holy day, and this person is probably thinking about, I would probably like to be wished on my festivals, on certain days that are important to me. So I would, and they would smile back. So I think a huge wall broke there. And during this time, I went for my first interfaith iftar. So interfaith iftar is where people of all communities, whether they are fasting or not fasting, they get together and break their fast. So um, that interfaith fasting was something that I saw that I was not there were huge number of people. So that's when I met the first person who was part of URI, and I saw that it was just amazing. People of all faiths were coming, and they were all eating together, and I saw harmony on the ground, which I had not seen because I was only used to the TV media. And with this with Ram Mohanji, who I met, who was part of who was a part of a CC in URI, I ended up we ended up working for we organized the first ever bus journey from Rajghat, which is the resting place of Mahatma Gandhi, or Gandhi Memorial, and to the Wagah border, which is which is the border of Pakistan and India. And we went there and we lit candles, and all through, and in this bus journey, there were people of all faiths. There were people from all across India, from the south, from the northeast, from Kashmir, and we all went. And so Pakistan celebrates its Independence Day on 14th, and India celebrates it on 15th. Just to demarcate, because they wanted to show that they're different countries. And we basically went and lit candles at midnight of 14th and 15th to kind of show solidarity and to basically make a statement that we want peace. And because of this, India and Pakistan have very less. Um, uh, okay, sorry, Samira. So yeah, so they have very less people, in general. What really happened is that I started getting invited to all these other places, and I ended up speaking. I basically ended up meeting a lot of more Pakistanis, and we tend to homogenize uh, communities. And what I saw was there was what the media told us is very different than what we see in when we actually meet people. And I think, I also did a lot of work with students. So we have a calendar that we launched, which has six paintings of Indians and six paintings of Pakistanis. And when we saw these students talk to each other on Skype, we noticed that they don't ask about religion. What they ask is, how much homework does your teacher give? Do you like maths? Who is your favorite cricketer? So they talked about these things. And then the entire religion and the religious conflict is actually an external construct. And that's when a lot of wheels started moving. And of course, by the time I was part of URI, and what happens is that when you are part, or when you change, when you leave your old prejudices, you end up becoming, you change and you grow. And what happens is the people around you, you start moving. You can't identify with them anymore. And what URI gave me was a platform to speak, to meet all these other people who believed in a similar interfaith, uh, you know, uh, believed in interfaith practices, or believed in the entire theory or the entire sentiment of interfaith with me. It gave me, and it gave me resources to actually work on the ground, because, and I was so carried, I was so carried away, I was so moved with everything that I learned during this time, that I ended up, transitioning. As I was in the corporate world, I ended up transitioning completely to the peace building, and now I work completely in peace building. I write, I help, a lot of peace institutes and peace organizations um, break the narrative that media is uh, has been feeding them. So I think from an accident to having my own eyes opened till now, where I am, where I completely believe that the what the media tells us, how media stereotypes different communities, or or reverse, even how media stereotypes our own communities, versus when we actually be friends and we meet people and we get to know them, and how we see their lives are exactly like us, their aspirations are exactly like us. So that can only happen when two people, when in general people get to know each other. So I think I'd just kind of like to, I think my time's up, and I'd like to um, end my story there. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Pragya, for sharing your wonderful interfaith journey with us. I was truly moved, and I'm sure the other people in the room were moved as well. So, as we're warming up, let's move to uh, PK, Mama PK, to share her story with us. I invite you, PK, to please share your wonderful story. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Know that I've touched just about every time zone this last 10 days. But I wanted to show you a picture. I hope you can see it. Let's see. It's a statue of, oh, there it is. It's a statue of Maya Angelou. So I thought it was serendipitous that we put her quote up for starting this. And just as an offside, I met Maya at the age of 10 and fell in love with her poetry and her books, but mostly because she was as tall as I am. And that was just astonishing to see a woman at that time as tall as I was. And at 11, I was already 6 feet. So when you think about this journey of mine, I think that while I know specifically what got me started in interfaith work, I know that in a way, the way I was raised with elders coming back to communities and serving the children is a part of my cultural inviting life into my being ready for what life hands you. And by this time, Maya Angelou was an actress, a dancer, and it was just wonderful to have someone like that in our communities in a little rural town called Prairie View. But my interfaith journey, in some ways, was an accident. I wrote a book in 1993 called Black Bible Chronicles, and it was dubbed the Hip Hop Bible. And oddly enough, I was at a booksellers convention, and that was the year that the Christian Bible had been reinterpreted through a plethora of I don't know, the English language versus the King James language versus Greek versus Aramaic. The words of the spiritual place or faith of mine had all these different Bibles. Mine, however, was not a Bible. It was storytelling, telling the stories of these people from long ago. And of course, as a Christian, Jesus is the focal point, his birth, his death, his resurrection. I was a good and faithful Christian growing up in the church. My grandfather had a church for 70 years out in a little rural town. And my father followed suit after he went to college and got a degree and a master's degree. He decided to become a minister too. So that makes me a preacher's kid and a preacher's grandkid. And the thing about being the preacher's child, especially if they're the pastor, is that you are required to be better than the other children, which of course sets the stage for us to be pernicious, for getting into trouble, thinking of ways to get by with other children. But it also gave me a foundation. And the foundation was that I became a Sunday school teacher. And in teaching Sunday school, you're supposed to teach the lesson from the scripted way in which you refer to God, refer to what your faith traditions are. And we had a Sunday school program where we took kids from neighborhoods that were marginalized, and we would feed them breakfast, and then we'd take them to church. And I guess we wanted to proselytize to them because we wanted them to be Christians as well. And some of the kids would run around on the side of the church when it came time for Sunday school because they wanted the breakfast. They didn't want us pushing anything down their throat. They were kids, but they were mostly preteens and teenagers. So I brought them back to the classroom, and rather than teach a lesson, I just talked with them. And sometimes during talking with them, what would happen is I would find a Sunday school lesson to tell them as a story. And the story one time that I told was about the adulterous woman and the fact that they brought her to Jesus to do what the rules said. And the rules were to stone her. And Jesus is being set up, so to speak, because if he stones her, then this peace thing that he's talking about is not real. And if he doesn't stone her, then he's not a good Jewish man. And so what Jesus does is he starts writing in the dirt. And in writing in the dirt, the men started leaving one at a time. And finally, after I tell the story, I asked the children the question, what was Jesus writing in the sand? And some of the kids said, thou shalt not kill. Other kids say, please don't hurt this woman. And they went on and on. And finally, this little boy said, he had the 411 on them dudes. And I went, what? He had the 411 on them dudes. Well, in America, 411 is the number you dial for information. So it's a slang term. He had the 411, he had the information. I said, but what do you mean by that? He said, he was writing about every man that was there. And I thought about it. What a marvelous interpretation. Because the men did leave, and the little boy explains this. They left one at a time. Every time they saw their name, they knew Jesus was going to tell something about what they did wrong. And it began this journey of really understanding what the words mean, what the intentions are, what the interpretations are. And I had not written the book yet. This was like in the 70s. But years later, I wrote this book. And this book helped me to sit in a forum with these scholars and theologians from all across the globe, the Oxford Bible, the King James, the New King James Version. I sat with these men, and most of them were men. We'll talk about that later in another storytelling thing. But I got to share why I wrote this book. And it brought me to the attention of a man called Bill Moyers. And Bill Moyers had been going to a class in New York where this rabbi taught about the book of Genesis. And I don't know if everyone knows, but Genesis for me is in the Christian Bible. But Genesis and the 5 books of the Bible that I call mine are also in the Quran and the Torah. And I got a chance to sit with these individuals, nuns, rabbis, writers, to talk about this first book, Genesis, Eve, who ate the apple and brought sin into the world. The idea of the Cain killed his brother. All of these stories we got to talk about in a round table or around the fire kind of setup. And we got to talk about what this first book that are in 3 different faiths, even though we call ourselves the Abrahamic faith. We have these three religions that look at what happened in that particular period of time, the beginning of time till now, and share our ideas about it. Well, less than a year later, I get a phone call from a man named Andrew, and he told me about Bishop Swing and the fact that they were trying to get people together at Stanford to talk about what would it look like to have people of different faiths and spiritual intonations and beautiful rituals. What would it be like if we were all together? Not necessarily in the same place all the time, but that we crossed over and got to learn about one another. And we crossed over and we do things together. And whether or not it's about poverty or police brutality, whether or not it's about the environment or nuclear weapons, we could come together, a minimum of 7 people and a minimum of 3 religions, and see what would happen. And since 1997, I am beginning to see the wisdom and the purpose of URI and how we are growing exponentially across continents. And what is even best to me is as an elder, as I head toward my 7 decades, I know that the world is really going to be okay. There's a song, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. Whatever your religion, whatever your faith, you can be part of peace beginning with you and continuing with you. My faith journey, and I'm still Christian, it's the faith tradition of my mother, my grandmother, my grandfathers, and I'm not going to stop being a Christian. But I'm so much more. I have been in ashrams and temples and synagogues and out in the forest and on the land in a tent. I've been to sweat lodges and meditations, and each moment in time creates for me a place where I am more peaceful, but more than that, that I'm more loving and I'm more caring. And my understanding has ripped to shreds those biases that I had about Wiccans. I'll tell the story real quick, but one of my friends is Don Frew. Don Frew was a trustee. Don Frew has been my friend now, going on 30 years. I sat at a table with him, and that table was set for all of us in all of our different faiths and religions to get to know one another more closely. And I asked Don, what is your faith tradition? Don said, I'm a witch. And I froze, wondering, what do I ask him? What witches are a faith? I just didn't get it. To this day, Don and I talk about that story. And Don says, I don't know why I said that to you. I usually say, I'm a Wiccan priest, I'm a pagan. But he didn't explain any of that to me. And all I know is that when I went back to my dorm room at Stanford University, I got that Bible out, looking for some place to tell me whether it was all right to be in collaboration with the witch. I didn't find anything. I woke up the next morning and my Bible was on the floor. I picked it up, turned it over, and it was in the book of Exodus, one of the books in the Torah. It's also in the Quran. And Moses is talking to a bush that is burning. And Moses asked the voice in the bush, "Who are you? Who are you?" And the voice says, "I am that I am." Now, I'm a writer. I'm an English major. I'm an editor. Is it I am, comma, that I am, meaning that it was a special I am? Or was it really saying we all are I am? And it was at that moment that it solidified for me that interfaith is a great tool for making the world a better place because it encompasses all of the I ams in the world. Each one of us is an I am. Each one of us has our own purpose, our own journeys, but sometimes they cross. Sometimes we run parallel. Other times we seem like we're going in the opposite directions, but actually what we're doing is going to handle those things and the places in the world that need our love, need our caring, need our compassion, need our mercy. And it includes justice. And it includes truth that is not always kind nor joyful. It includes our falterings and our successes. And carrying those stories to each other sets them in your heart, in that place that makes you who you are. Interfaith is just one of the many words that I use to tell people that they matter, that they are valuable, that they deserve a roof over their heads and food in their bellies and health care, and that they deserve to be valued. That's my role. That's my role as an elder. In 2008, Think Peace was born, and it was born because of young people. And I remember after that week that young people had a workshop before the grown-ups, but ages like 16 to maybe 25, that they did a week-long workshop on interfaith for the youth. And at the end of it, I wanted to know how they felt about what they did. And I asked them this one question. Do you feel as if you've set some mandates, the next steps? And every one of them said yes. And I told them no. You didn't set the mandates here. You helped to create them. Now you have to take them back to your communities. That's where those mandates are set. That's where our purpose is infused into our daily lives. As long as I've done this, there have been disappointments. But more than anything, despite the disappointments, because of interfaith, I have hope for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, PK, for passing on that hope to all of us and to those who are watching us on Facebook Live. It was a wonderful story and I'm truly moved. And with that, I would like to call over His Grace Salika Dasa ji. Hare Krishna. We already introduced you, and I would request you to please share your story with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanya. My greetings to each and everyone on this platform. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where we are in the different part of the world. And I feel so elated to be part of this very wonderful storytelling association. It's actually an interesting thing because when you hear other person's stories, it gives you motivation to continue in the work that you do in the field of Interfaith. Looking at my background of story, trying to paint a picture of how my story, Interfaith story starts. Actually, 10 minutes is such a short time, but then I'll try to see if I can compress that into these few minutes. Interestingly, I was actually born an interfaith child, consciously and unconsciously, because I was born by a Muslim father and a Christian mother. And at birth, I got the name, a Muslim name, and I got a Christian name. And in my background, especially in the western part of Nigeria where I was born, it wasn't an unusual thing to find a mixture of 2 or 3 or more religious background people in the same family. So it wasn't much of a challenge. But as I was growing up, typical of African tradition, I grew up as a Muslim practitioner. And because of my fascination to religion and relationship with God, I became so passionate about studying the Quran, and I studied Quran to the extent that I started mingling with scholars in Islamic world. But my whole world was engulfed in Islamic tradition. I wasn't so much looking at Christianity. I grew up with a dad and I practiced Islam until I was in my late teens, and then something happened. Coming from a background of a polygamous family, I had to go to a church for an errand. And before that time, I know the Christians also worship God, but I do not have any reason. I've never thought the need to go to understand what Christianity is all about. Yes, they worship God, but I was so narrow-minded on my Islamic view of God and humanity. So I went there for a purpose, and then my journey of interfaith started from there. And because from birth, I have a kind of a special talent. I had the gift of clairvoyance. I could say things that would happen in a couple of days. So when I went to the Christian church, I went to deliver a message, and there were some messages said to me. I left there. But to cut the long story short, some encounter brought me, and I had a gift of the Spirit. And I found myself speaking in tongues. I was speaking so many things. Then it wasn't in today's world where speaking in tongues has become kind of a learning thing. It was an unusual thing to happen in those times. I'm talking about the late 1970s. And I got the gift of the Spirit, and I started speaking. I couldn't control myself, and a lot of things happened in that encounter. Then after that experience, I had to go. I was invited for a revival in the church, and I went to the church. As at that time, I was an imam. I was like the head in my mosque. I was leading my Quranic mosque. That's at that time, and I only have the founder of the mosque ahead of me. So I was invited to the church for a 3-day revival. And when I went there, I had that revival. Within these 3 days, a lot of things happened, which I cannot narrate in this short period of time. But the significance of this story was that after the 3 days encounter, it became obvious that I was going to start practicing Christianity in some way. And I had to start going to the church. But then how do you explain for someone who is not just a practicing Muslim, but someone who is actually a religious leader in the Islamic tradition with the level of role I hold in the Islamic community? I had a lot of explanation to give. And that made me to start thinking about, okay, what is the common factor between Christianity and Islam? Because I need to make some explanations to explain my position, my conviction, and also, of course, also to explain to my dad that I have to now practice Christianity. So I had started studying the Bible more closely. Then the journey continued from there. And somehow or the other, I started seeing so many similarities within Christianity and my understanding of Islamic religion. But then it wasn't clicking at that time. But for me, it was just trying to get reasons why I should be a Christian. I was just looking for some information to convince so that I could be able to practice Christianity at the time. So that journey continued, and I was in that tradition for about 10 years. About 10 years, I was practicing Christianity, and then because of my natural attachment and passion for religious activities, in a short period of time, I became a very strong pillar in the church I was going. I became a leader in the church. I started teaching in the Sunday school. I became a prophet. I was doing so many miracles and all of that, and the church. So in the couple of 10 years, between 1979, 1980 to 1988, 89, I had become a very stalwart Christian leader. I had over 30 churches under my watch. I was a prominent religious Christian teacher at that time. But then my interfaith activities wasn't so strong because now I was a Muslim. I was preaching vigorously Islamic teachings, and now I'm a Christian. I'm preaching Christianity, but I didn't find that relationship, how to actually bring the both together. So somehow or the other, something happened. I did some miracle, and something led to other. Then I can tell that story. It's a long story. Actually, I did a miracle on a dead baby, and it prone my inquisitiveness about God and God's activities. And I started finding answers to questions about destiny. Then I started reading philosophical books. I started reading different types of books. And in the course of reading those books, I came about a book written by a journalist, which was talking about Eastern philosophy, about the Vedic scriptures. Of course, within this period, I read Grail Message, I read Ekenka, I read so many. They were not appealing to me, actually. But then when I read about the stories of the Brahmanas of India and the stories of Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata, I became very much inclined to it. I wanted to travel to India because I never thought I could find something similar to that in the location I was. Then, somehow or the other, by dint of fortune, I come in contact with someone who was selling books about the Krishna conscious movement. Of course, I wasn't looking for Hare Krishna. I was looking for an introduction book to yoga. Then this person came with a book, Perfection of Yoga and Topmost Yoga book, which is Krishna conscious books. And I took those two books and I read it. And then when I read those two books, I came to understand that, oh, this is another aspect of understanding God. And immediately I started reading because I'm always very keen about reading more, knowing more about God. So I started reading Bhagavad Gita. But then in the course of my reading Bhagavad Gita, my story of interfaith practice starts from that point. When I read a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, which says that, Ye yata mam prapadyante tams tataiva bhajamyaham mama vatmanu vatante manushapata sarvasa. Meaning that all of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. For they all are following my path in all respects. And when I read that verse, then I would start wondering, okay, this is a verse about God talking about the connections of various religions. Then I started bringing my understanding to, okay, how do I expand the scope of knowledge? Then I start reading more of Bhagavad Gita. Then I start seeing the need to bring about understanding of unification about religion from different perspectives. And that was the beginning of my journey of interfaith. Then from there, I started going into seminars, conferences about interfaith. And because of those activities, I started developing interest in relating all of the religious backgrounds from different traditions to each other. And that's how I started doing the interfaith activities. But then my interfaith activities, after learning so deeply in Krishna consciousness, I see how all of the religions are connected. So I started preaching interfaith. I go to the mosque, go to the church, and I try to preach. But there is a problem. And that problem was that each and everywhere I go to, now I'm identified as a Krishna conscious person. And then when you want to talk from the position of a religious tradition to another tradition, there's always this reservation, there's always this sentiment that, oh, this is a different person. But I'm looking for something that could make everyone be at home with each other from different religious platforms. And when I started teaching in the university in the World Religious Department, I was able to interact with several people on the same platform who are coming from different religions. But those activities of my religious interfaith did not get to its zenith until when I came in contact with URI in 2012. And when I came in contact with URI in 2012, and I went for an interfaith activities with on the platform of URI, and I started realizing how this is a wonderful platform whereby I'm no longer seen as a Krishna conscious person. Because previous to this time, even though I was doing interfaith, now from my experience of development of understanding of religion, but when I come to platform of URI, I saw a platform whereby where I come from as either a Christian or a Muslim or a Krishna person does no longer matter. What really matters is about how you bring people from different backgrounds for the same one purpose or cause of developing peace and God unification. And that was why I felt absolutely in love with URI. And since that year, I've taken it as a main platform whereby I could interact with different interfaith practitioners. And it's such a wonderful thing that from the moment I come in contact with URI, it is actually, it gives me so much of exposition into other world organization, interfaith organization like the platform of Parliament of World Religion and many other such platforms. So my story of interfaith actually goes like this, because I'm trying to look at the time. I know so many things are there to be said, but because of the constraint of the time, I will just want to stop here, and then maybe probably if the opportunity comes, maybe I can expand on this few words I've said.
Well, how to wrap up these 3 stories at the end. Thank you so much for the stories that you shared. I am incredibly inspired, moved, blessed to be able to sit here, listen, take in, and continue my life with the lessons that I learned from these 3 stories. And there are 21 people in this room, and then there are a few watching us on Facebook as well. And there's just incredible wisdom here and experience. And I'm so happy to be able to enjoy the stories in the following segment of our time together and hear other stories as well. Again, thank you so much for being with us, Salika, Mama PK, and Pragya. It's a great honor to be able to call you my colleagues and my friends in this interfaith peace building movement. And I'm so humbled to be able to share this platform with all of you. I would really like to thank everyone who's watching us on Facebook. It's great to know that you're so interested in the event, the number of reactions we're getting and the comments. It's really, it's humbling to know that people love this event as much as they do. I would like to thank them for watching us. Now we move into a segment that's only for Zoom, because we will be moving into smaller groups and continuing our conversations. But we look forward to being on Facebook Live again soon with possibly a similar event, because of the interest that we received for stories that URI has to offer to the whole network. We will be stopping our live stream now, and we stay only on Zoom. Thank you everyone for staying. I would be sending you off into a different campfire site. It will be less people, it will be less crowded. We will make sure that we have all COVID precautions ready for you, so less people, but no masks this time. We're still virtual. I will be asking one question of all of you in the breakout rooms, and that will be, to share your interfaith moment. What's the moment that started your interfaith journey for you? I will be posting this question in the chat box as well, and I will be sending it off to your groups just to make sure that everyone has it before them. We will have between 15 to 20 minutes, well, 15 minutes to share some of the stories. It will be 3 of you per group. And let's try to give everyone equal time and equal space to share just a tiny glimpse into that moment that started your interfaith journey. Are we ready to go? We're ready to go. Okay. I have these powers and I'm here to share them with you. Let's go off into the small groups. See you in 15 minutes.
Samira, have you put me in a group or not?
No, I'm not able
Okay.
to put you because you're the host.
Do you want me to go to a group?
There is one group, number 4. It has just the 2 of them there.
Let's see.
So if you want, you can join the group. And I'll just post the question right now so that people don't get lost.
Okay, I'll go and join them. This is so good. Well done.
I love it. I really love it. Yay. So I'm putting the question, what was the moment that started your interfaith journey? Broadcast.
Okay, I'm gonna go join.
Okay, see you in 15 minutes. Was it? Did you like it?
That was so wonderful. Tanya and Stuti really inspired me. I know
It seems like I paired you well.
Yeah, yeah. My hope for tomorrow. Thank you, thank you.
PK being all happy about youth. Typical PK. Well, I'm happy to know that that you enjoyed it.
Okay.
Tanya, are you okay? Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So good to see you all. I expect everyone to start complaining that it was not enough time. As always. I do that every single time. But I'm really happy to see you back. I was alone in this main room waiting for someone to join in, and we had one person joining us, so I was able to send them off into a room. Judging on people's reactions when they came back first, it seems that a lot of you enjoy this experience and the conversations in the smaller groups. And I would love to hear at least one person tell me how it felt for them. How was it to hear these stories in the smaller groups? Stuti, I just want you to know that Tanya volunteered you to speak on behalf of your group. Are you there? No, oh, she's no longer with us. Oh, you're there. I see you. Hi.
Hi.
How was it for you? Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi. Hi, nice to meet you too.
How was it in the group?
It was really exciting. I got to hear so much wonderful, amazing stories and experiences. It was really nice.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I'm happy you were with us. Sagar Swami, I saw your hand.
Yeah.
How was it for you in the group?
Yeah, thank you, Samira. I wanted to thank you very much for putting me in the same room with Isaac and Salik. We really enjoyed our time together because, you know, we kind of already know each other, and it allowed us to learn a few more details and go deeper into our relationship. So it was wonderful. Thanks for the arrangement.
Thank you for sharing that. It's always interesting that with URI people, whenever you're paired up randomly with other folks, you can always pick up the conversation where you left it last time. And your testimony confirms my experience with URI. exactly. Thank you all for participating and for sharing your stories. I give the mic to Tanya to announce sort of the wrapping up of our time together, and then you'll come back to me again.
Thank you, Sumita, and thank you everybody else. I hope you enjoyed today's event, and thank you for staying with us till now. Before we make an important announcement, I would request you to fill out the poll that would be displayed on your screen in a moment to help us with your valuable feedback. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we will be able to watch it live as it changes as co-hosts and hosts. It would be great for you to give us your honest feedback. It would help us work on our future events together, make sure that we interpret that we hear your voices and incorporate them into our future activities. So any feedback is more than welcome. And of course, anyone who would like to give a more detailed feedback, feel free to email us. We will drop our emails in the chat box so that you can give us even an essay-long experience if you'd like to share more about this event. And absolutely, a few questions are saying that you should rate the event from 1 to 5. 1 being the lowest grade. So for example, the first one, how would you rate this event? If you rated with 1, that means you did not enjoy the experience. It was not good for you. And 5 means plus, 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 plus. So it's a positive. So it's a scale between 1 and 5. And I can see a lot of your responses coming in. 10 people already completed the poll. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is going great. We really appreciate your feedback. It will help us prepare for the future events and make sure that we grow from this experience together with all of you and make sure that we do a better job every single time. And we can only do that based on your feedback and your participation and your active collaboration with us at URI. There is one more person, no pressure, but just noting that there is one more person that we're waiting in to get the response from. Okay. So I will, great. So I will share, thank you so much for all your feedback. I will share my screen with, so can we share the results?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. Do you want? Okay.
Sarah, could you do that, please?
I can do that.
Great, thank you.
You can see them?
Yes. Can everyone else see them? Okay, I see some.
Yes, we can see them. 97% for storytelling. Oh, we got to do this again.
It seems that people are really interested in the stories. How would you rate the event? 92% of people said 5 stories, community building, conversation in smaller groups, 4 and 5. Yes. Do you feel better connected to URI? Did this enhance your interfaith understanding? Yes. And would you like to join a similar event in the future? Yes. And I say yes too, and I look forward to seeing you all again. And before we wrap up for today, I'm going to share my screen once again and give the floor back to Tanya.
Well, thank you everybody for your valuable feedback. Now, what if I told you that this is not the end of our storytelling journey? Because we invite you to share your interfaith moment with us and others who will be reading the blog. So I want to tell you that you can send us poetry, prose, stories that bring out the spirit of interfaith, and you can send them to us by the 28th of February this year. And please refer to the display on the screen for more details and the email ID. If you would like to, please take a screenshot. Otherwise, we will be sending you a follow-up email wherein you will have these details. And select stories will be published by URI throughout the year. And I would encourage you to share this with others whom you might know would be interested to share their stories with the world. So thank you so much. I handle it back to you, Samira. Please
Hey,
carry on.
well, thank you so much. Let's try to imagine for the very end that next to our campsite, there is a lake and we're there enjoying our time. And the night went by like this and it's already sunrise. And let me show that image with you and then give you sort of a task. Just give me a second. Okay. So this is the site that we are enjoying together right at this moment. I hope that you can see it.
I
This is-
love sunrising.
So this is the view that we're enjoying together. And as we're watching sunrise, let's put a word in the chat box of how we're feeling right now. After the full night of stories, a lot of community building in URI, a lot of emotions, a lot of experience heard and expressed. How are we feeling right now? Just one word in the chat box. And as you submit them, I'll be happy to read them out loud. Inspired, happy, connected, moved, loved, safe, hope, fulfilled, inspired, feeling enlightened, great, grounded, energetic and alive, which is not good because it's sleep time in India. I'm so sorry, Pragya, but I'm happy that we send those wonderful vibes your way. Encouraged, appreciation. Okay, I'm really enjoying these words and how I feel blessed at this particular moment. This is a wonderful way to wrap up my week and my work week with URI during this incredibly important time for all of us doing peace building interfaith work, and that's World Interfaith Harmony Week. I wish to thank all of you for joining us in celebrating World Interfaith Harmony Week, and may this become a daily thing of listening to stories, benefiting from them, enjoying the experience of being with people such as these wonderful storytellers that we had today. All of you, not just the three main speakers that we had, but all of you. I'm really grateful for the team of my colleagues who worked together with me on putting this event together. Tanya, thank you so much for all the efforts. Sarah, it was great to work with you, and Emmanuel, it was a pleasure to collaborate with you for the first time, but it will not be the last, I'm sure. And to the whole team of URI staff who worked a lot this year on putting together the series of events for World Interfaith Harmony Week. And I encourage you to check out the other two events that will be happening by the end of this month. And you can learn more about them on the same link where you got the registration for this event. Thank you all so very much. We look forward to reading your stories that you will hopefully submit to the email that we shared. I will drop my email in the inbox just in case you would like to share anything else. And we will be in touch, and let's continue building this movement of peace, justice, and healing that we're all a part of. I'm sending you lots of blessings from Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend.